The noonday sun was high in the sky, and Flash and Tun had been traveling south for several hours. They trudged on in silence for the most part, the Lion Man's long tail occasionally twitching at the clouds of insects which buzzed around their heads. They were passing through swamp country and were making good progress when suddenly Tun shot a restraining hand out to halt his companion. He tilted his head back, sniffing at the misty air.
"That's odd," he said. "Something I didn't expect out here in the middle of this wretched swamp. It seems to have had some sort of accident."
Beckoning Flash to follow, he barged through a thicket of tall, clattering bamboo. Flash noticed the odor now. "There's been a fire. It's still smoldering." Tun forged ahead through intricacies of vine and branch.
"It was a vehicle of some sort, judging by the smell of the smoke. Perhaps even a flying machine."
Slowly they eased through the swamp, through the hanging, shaggy vines over the damp ground.
"There it is,"
whispered Tun. 50 yards ahead was a silver flying ship. It had crashed in the swamp, and the engine had caught fire. The nose end of the ruined ship was gutted, a blistered black. Jagged cracks filled the windows of the control cabin.
"No chance of patching it up for our own use," said Flash.
The Lion Man nodded.
"You see the insignia on the door?"
There was a golden sunburst painted on the now dented side of the craft.
"That is Ming's symbol. This ship belonged to someone from the palace. Let us investigate."
They had traveled only another 20 yards when, far off in the swamp, a girl screamed. Tun tore aside vines and brush with his huge hands. "Easy now," said Flash as he followed in the Lion Man's wake. "This could be some kind of trap."
"I think not. Those cries for help sounded too real. Aye, yonder is the girl."
Clinging to a low branch of a gnarled tree by her hands and feet was an auburn-haired girl. Her tight-fitting two-piece flying suit was torn and muddied. Watching the girl from below was a giant salamander, similar to the one Flash had encountered on his way to the Heart and Arrow Inn. Its jaws were wide open, the forked tongue whipping toward the dangling girl. The Lion Man said, "Let me see if I can handle this fellow with the help of that marvelous pistol of yours." Flash handed over his blaster with a grin, and Tun went stomping off toward the huge creature. The salamander made a moist, fluttering noise as it watched the girl, waiting for her to let go of the branch and fall within range.
"Hey, you ugly brute!"
shouted Tun when he was near the beast's right side. The giant head lowered and inspected the approaching Lion Man.
"You'll cause no more trouble in these parts."
Tun squeezed the trigger, and a second later the salamander's head was turning to soot. Its body swayed, then tumbled over sideways. The jungle shook. As the girl lost her grip on the branch, Flash sprinted and caught her in his arms before she hit the ground. Setting her upright gently, he asked, "Were you alone in the ship?" She brushed back her long hair, smiling faintly at him. "Yes, I was alone," she said. She glanced at Tun's flicking tail.
"You needn't be unsettled. I am aware that lion men are unpopular in the palace, but we can't always select our rescuers."
"Please, don't be offended. I don't share the prejudices of those who rule Mongo. How did you know I was from the palace? Oh, yes, of course. You saw my fallen ship."
She looked up at Flash.
"I wonder how I'm going to get back home."
"We're on our way to Tintura. We're traveling on foot, but we can see you that far."
"If you don't mind a lion man for an escort," added Tun.
The girl smiled at him.
"I'd be very grateful if you'd both allow me to come along, and I'd feel much safer as well."
After a second, the Lion Man said,
"My name is Tun, and this is Flash Gordon."
The girl said,
"I am Ilana. I am a servant of the Emperor's daughter, Princess Aura."
"She lets you borrow her flying ship?" asked Flash.
"Well, not exactly. I get very restless sometimes, cooped up in that palace, and, well, I take what I need to liven up things. Yesterday I borrowed an airship. I am, fortunately, a great favorite of the princess."
"I see," said Flash.
When we reach Tintura, will you allow me to take you and Tan to dinner? There are 1 or 2 relatively decent inns there along the river. We can dine together, and then I'll make arrangements to get back home to the capital.
We'd be happy to join you, said Flash. The dining room of the Cold Harbour Inn in Tintura was large, with stone walls painted a pale grey. Copper utensils and tankards hung from pegs in the ceiling beams. A fire blazed in the red brick fireplace. Flash, the girl, and the Lion Man were seated at a square table near one of the leaded windows. Tearing a chunk of brown bread off the loaf in the bread basket, the Lion Man said,
Now, in my home country, we'd call this bread a trifle bland. For real bread with some taste to it, you have to start with cornmeal. We grow our... Hey!
He stood up so quickly that his chair flipped over and smacked the wooden floor.
Make no further moves, Lion Man,
warned the Royal Police Sergeant, who was striding across the room towards their table. He held a blaster pistol in his hand. 5 other policemen accompanied him.
You should have stayed with your fallen ship, Princess Aura,
the sergeant said to the girl. She remained seated, lips pressed tight together.
What means this?
Demanded the Lion Man, his tail switching angrily back and forth.
You are not a servant, but the daughter of old merciless Ming himself.
The princess kept her eyes lowered.
I'm sorry, she said.
If you will step outside, Princess, you'll find a flying machine waiting.
I'd rather stay with my friends, said Princess Aura.
Toying with the clasp of his cloak, the sergeant said,
They'll be coming to the palace too. Had I my way, Princess, I would shoot them both down here and now, especially that half-human Lion Man. However, I have orders to gather recruits.
Recruits for what? asked Tan.
The tournament, answered the sergeant. You'll both be appearing in the arena tomorrow.
Ming's bony fingers tightened around Dale's bare arm.
What better way to learn about my people than by witnessing an event such as this, my dear, he said. My people love the tournaments with their spectacle and excitement. Man against ape man, man against tiger. Oh, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. He smiled pleasantly. Now come along. It is nearly midday. We must go to the royal box.
Holding her arm, he guided her toward the gilded door of her chamber.
You will witness many unusual sights, I promise.
Resignedly, Dale allowed him to escort her down a series of lofty corridors, then through an underground passageway. Finally, they emerged into a large, glass-enclosed box overlooking the arena. Several members of Ming's inner staff were already seated there. A moment after Ming ushered Dale to the seat next to his, the chief of police brought Princess Aura into the box. Ming drew his cloak tighter round himself before turning to speak to his daughter.
I am very pleased you've returned to the capital in time for this eventful day, my dear, he said,
as he rested an elbow on the rail of the royal box. Stroking his beard, he surveyed the crowded tiers of seats.
A goodly crowd, every bench filled.
He raised his right hand and waved it. From all around the great oval arena, trumpets blared. Uniformed men were stationed at 10-foot intervals, golden trumpets aimed at the clear, blue midday sky. The huge crowd of spectators applauded as a side gate of the arena swung open. 2 gigantic ape-men emerged, hunched, long, hairy arms swinging. One of them lifted a shaggy hand to shield his eyes against the glare of the sun. Next, 2 prisoners were prodded out of their tunnel into the arena. The crowd grew silent, expectant. The only sound in the arena was that of the pennants snapping in the light wind. An ape-man snarled, growled, then went charging toward the 2 prisoners. They were both small men of middle age. A few feet from them, the ape-man halted. More slowly, the second ape-man began stalking across the arena. The prisoners remained on the same spot. With a roar, the nearest ape-man leaped, grabbed hold of one of the men. He lifted the small man up high over his head and threw him full force against the stone wall of the arena. He jerked him up from the ground and threw him again. The audience cheered approval. The man was a bent and broken heap on the ground. Diving at him, the ape-man tore at his throat with his teeth, delivering the death blow. Dale looked away. "You'll find the moment of the kill is the most fascinating part, my dear." Ming took hold of her face, sharp fingers digging into her jaw, and forced her to turn her head back toward the arena. A moment later, the second ape-man killed the other prisoner.
"They're saving us for the last, I do believe," said Tun.
He was seated on a rough wooden bench, his broad back against the stones of the tunnel wall. Flash stood near the barred gate, watching the arena.
"No one has survived so far," he said. "You hear the people out there, hooting and hollering?" said the Lion Man.
He joined Flash at the gate.
"Look, there are thousands of them sitting there, allowing that tyrant to tell them what to do. Yet if they had the courage to turn against him..."
A big, bearded man approached and unlocked the gate.
"Out into the arena, the both of you," he ordered. "See if you can't give the customers a better performance than the last few cringing devils." "We'll give you all a show, my lad," promised Tun.
He squared his shoulders and went striding out into the sunlight. Flash followed. The gate shut and locked behind them. After a quick glance at the royal box, Flash turned his attention to the entryway. The door opened slowly, and two enormous yellow and black unicorn tigers padded menacingly out into the arena. They moved cautiously, bellies close to the ground. The silence of the crowd held.
"Have you seen the likes of these rascals in your travels, my friend?"
"Nothing exactly like them. The horns look deadly."
"Aye, that they are. With one slash of a horn they can cut a man open."
Tun watched the tigers, his tail switching in counterpoint to theirs.
"Still, we'll have no trouble with this pair, I'm thinking."
"Make that 3, said Flash. A third unicorn was emerging from the dark tunnel.
"Fellow in the lead's getting set to jump," Tun pointed out. "I'll take him."
He galloped toward the first unicorn tiger. The crouching animal's tail thrashed, and then it sprang. Tun dropped to his back, and as the tiger shot over him, the Lion Man kicked out with both his feet. The kick caught the beast square in the stomach, causing it to yowl and go slamming down to the ground on its side. Tun was upon the animal. Locking one powerful arm around its neck, he grabbed for the sharp horn at its base. Gritting his teeth, Tun twisted. There was a crackling snap, and the 1.5 foot long piece of bone was in his hand.
"Now I have me a weapon," he said.
In a half-squatting position, he hopped a half-circle round the partially stunned tiger and sank the horn in the animal's heart, killing it. The second tiger ran by this struggle, green eyes watching Flash. It jumped for him without a warning twitch, clawing at his face and torso. Flash swung, hitting a hard blow to the tiger's skull. The animal went limp, toppling down on top of him. Flash tried to roll away, but the heavy tiger had him pinned to the ground. He heard growls and a roar. The third unicorn was beside them. It began to slap at Flash with one great sharp clawed paw. Following Tun's example, Flash got hold of the horn of the stunned tiger who was holding him down. His strong wrist rotated back and forth, and the horn snapped. The other tiger continued to worry his arm. The beast's fangs pierced the skin of his forearm, drawing blood. Flash stabbed out with the bone horn in his hand. The blow penetrated the biting tiger's skull and pierced its brain. A few seconds later, the animal's huge body collapsed, dead. The dazed tiger was stirring toward wakefulness now. Digging in with his elbows, Flash began to move himself out from under.
"Spare yourself the trouble."
Tun was approaching the unicorn from the rear. He lunged, caught hold of its tail, and gave it a fierce tug. The tiger howled as it was yanked off Flash. Keeping hold of the tail, Tun began to swing the animal. He let go, and the tiger went smashing into the arena wall, its skull crushed by the impact. Flash accepted Tun's proffered hand and got to his feet. "You got more than your quota. Come on, let's see what the Emperor will do now." He took hold of his companion's arm, and they walked across the field toward the royal box.